conversation in Big People Conversation is about the orgasm gap. Before we start talking about the orgasm gap, the first thing we have to establish is what exactly is an orgasm? Who gets one? How does it happen? So we have to do the whole backstory to that. So let me start by my notes that I have here. In every sexual experience, well, you will not get an orgasm in every sexual experience, but the peak or the height of the sexual experience is an orgasm. Let me see. Some people say, have you ever heard someone say break? Well, every person, that's the zenith, that's the top of is to break to get an orgasm. There is something called the orgasm gap. And the orgasm gap just means that it is more likely, good night, darling. It is more likely that a man will break than, even though the benefits of an orgasm to a woman are so many. When a woman breaks, it is good for her mental health. It is good for her brain. It is good for her cognitive development. When a woman breaks, she becomes more in tune with her body. She knows how her body works. When a woman breaks, it actually helps with her physical well-being because there is lack of communication and we don't sit down and say, okay, what is necessary? What do I do so that you can break? Or the woman doesn't say to the man, listen, what you're doing is not helping me to reach to the height where I can break. But before we get to that, sometimes whatever happens to a woman in her earlier life affect if she will ever get the opportunity to break. So suppose she has gone through when she was a child, she get licks, people do all kind of things to she. When she gets older now, her body is still like stiff and tight up, like she can't release herself. It's like everything under pressure. So if a man in a relationship with this woman doesn't know that, wait, this woman body under pressure, or if the man doesn't even know that this woman needs to break, or if the man doesn't know that in order for this woman to break, I need to do A, B, and C. One of the first things is that as women, sometimes we don't have a positive relationship. Good night, darling. Sometimes we don't have a positive relationship with our own pat of cake. And so what happens, I don't want to say the V words because I don't know how Facebook will do it. So I'm going to call our Guyanese word. If you feel disconnected from your pat of cake, like if you don't think about it, you don't have no relationship with it, you don't see it as something beautiful, you don't honor it, you don't think, oh wow, this of giving birth to the world. If you don't see it in a positive light, then what happens is you cannot develop a good relationship, reach the height, like release, because in order to get an orgasm, you have to be in flow with your whole being. Your whole being must be in flow. That is to say, you can't have things that are holding you back. You can't be thinking about what you're going to cook tomorrow. You can't be thinking about, oh gosh, I have to take these children over there. No, your whole body has to be in flow. It's like where you release yourself fully. So if you find yourself in a situation and you're saying, I'm hearing people are talking about orgasm, but I don't know exactly what it is. I've never experienced it or anything like that. It is because you have not fully released yourself. You have to just release yourself. Another issue for us growing up in the kind of culture that we grew up in is that because these subjects were taboo and we don't just talk about them and just be free with them, it is harder for people to release themselves. So, what is the plan? What are we going to do? If you're a man and you're in a relationship, you have to treat it like a waltz. You have to, or you can just go out plain and ask the woman, what works for you? What should I do so that you can feel your best? But sometimes as a man, you don't have to ask. You just have to pay attention. What are you paying attention to? You're looking at her reaction. Whenever you touch that woman in a sensual way, how does she react? Is she just there stiff? Is she moaning? Is she making any sounds? Is she saying yes? Or is she just there silent? Silence is always your enemy. If she's breathing louder, you can say, okay, what I'm doing is the right thing. So I will keep doing that. You have to read the signs. If you're doing something and you realize that, man, good night, this thing is not working, you wouldn't even know if it's working, because sometimes just so that a woman doesn't make you feel bad as a man, that woman would fake. She would fake and behave as if she's enjoying the experience when she's not. Because some women, they don't want to say to the man, what you're doing is not working. So if you can't have that conversation with her to say, what do I need to do? Even before that, one of the first conversations you have to have with her is, what was your life like? What are the things that happened to you? How do they make you feel? What is your relationship? How do you feel about your body? How do you feel about your V? How do you feel about you? Find out that so that you can know where she is mentally, emotionally, physically. You need to know. Because the biggest thing we have is this gap between men and women. Because it doesn't take much for the man to reach his peak and zenith and have an orgasm. The problem is that for the woman, it takes a longer time. So let's establish. So we say if there's an orgasm gap, one, it could be that the woman has a very negative relationship with her own V. Two, it could be that what the man is doing to arouse the woman is not working, and he's not really keen to pay attention to the woman, to realize our nonverbals and to realize, okay, I did that, but it's not working. She's reacting in a positive way. So he's not aware that what he's doing is not working. And sometimes for some men, they could keep doing the wrong thing. It's not working. And the woman herself, because she doesn't want the man to feel bad, she could just fake it. I think one of the most important things for both parties to understand, especially the man, is that the whole act of intercourse is three parts. You have what is called foreplay. Then you have the act. Then you have what is called the afterglow. For the woman, the foreplay doesn't have a set time. So you cannot say, okay, I'm just going to try to arouse her for 6 minutes. I'm just going to try to arouse her for 20 minutes. I'm just going to try to arouse her for 30 minutes. No. You have to do that foreplay, engage with that woman in a sensual way until she reaches the point where she's ready for the second phase of the act. And that is not determined by no one else but the woman. This is also one of the reasons for the orgasm gap, because some women, they do not get enough time to actually be aroused so that she can be fully involved in the act. So if you're not spending enough time, that's an issue. How will you know that you have spent enough time? And this is the key. When you have spent enough time in the foreplay, you won't have to do anything. The woman herself will show you by her behavior and her actions that she's ready for intercourse. If you are the one who have to say, oh girl, let me do, no, you don't have to do that. What you do is engage in foreplay that will really arouse the woman. That's your job. Your job is to become so professional at foreplay that you don't have to beg your wife or whoever is in your life for intercourse. They will just want to give it to you because you sit there and you do the right thing. If you say, oh girl, come now, oh girl, give me a little bit now, oh girl, that's not how it works. How it works is in the first part of the act, you make sure that you have aroused the female, and then she will lead you on to the second part, which is the act itself. And after that, the afterglow. The afterglow is where you're coming down from the high of the orgasm. You're coming right back down. Your body is getting back to its normal self. You're no longer going through, all that heavy breathing and all of that. You're getting down to that place where you're normal again. That is the time when the woman especially needs to be cuddled. So if you have a tendency to just fall asleep and start snoring, have a little courage to be awake so that you can understand the process. You see, lack of knowledge is why we perish. We do not perish because, oh, I don't want to hear the truth. We perish because we don't have the knowledge. And this is the information. The information is understand the 3 phases of intercourse. And don't just think that it's just one phase, and when that phase is done, that's it. Understand that you have what is called the foreplay, you have the act itself, and you have the afterglow. And in that afterglow, you want to be there for that woman. You want to be holding her. You want to be whispering things to her. You want to be cuddling with her because that's the whole experience for the woman. And I'm sure that if you try this, any one of these, I am sure that she's more likely to get an orgasm. Let's close this orgasm gap where men almost always men almost always experience an orgasm, whereas women, so many factors make it difficult for them. I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. And if there's anything that you think that you can implement in your relationship, please do. Because that's exactly why we are doing Big People Conversation. We want this to be a place of non-judgment. We want this to be a place where we can share those conversations that are considered in our society tabooed conversation. Share this life if you know of someone. You don't even have to know someone. Let's share the knowledge so that we all can truly experience the zenith, not only in our sexual lives, but in all area and aspect of our lives. All right? Take care and thank you so much for joining. Tata.